Uh, one second. Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for the introduction. So as you all know, yeah, I'm Parveen Khan and I'm a senior test engineer at Scott Logic. So yeah, I've been into testing since last 6+ years, and I started my journey into testing as a solo tester, and that that gave me a brief opportunity to advocate about testing and get the value for testing. So yeah, and I'm also going to speak at Agile Testing Days USA and also at Test Bash Germany. So this is about me. So my today's topic is exploring a DevOps transformation like a tester. So you can find my slides here. So getting into my topic, my first question would be like, as a tester, how do you adapt when a new technology or a process is introduced within your team? What do you do? Do you research about it to find a solution along with the team? Or do you accept it as a challenge? Or do you reach out to the community in the testing community to see how people have approached it and what was their solution? I was in this situation when our team decided to adopt continuous integration, one of the aspect because we were transitioning into DevOps. So this is my, as Joel said, this is my own experience and my own story from testing point of view, how this transition was for me. So to start with, it had been a while for us since we transitioned from waterfall to agile, and we kind of took baby steps and evolved slowly and embraced the change. We all were very happy and quite comfortably settled in the way we were working. So we came from testing in a silo and testing is just a tester's responsibility to testing as a whole team responsibility. Just when we were happy that we went through the challenges and we all had to learn about agile and transition into agile, now it was a new challenge for us, and it was transitioning into DevOps. For me, it was an introduction to the world of new pipelines. Yeah, so as a tester, we always like new challenges because we get to explore something new and we get to apply a different mindset to find some new issues or give some valuable feedback to it. It also allows us in experimenting new ideas. So this was a challenge. This transition was very challenging for me because I had to understand a new way of testing that would be fit into these pipelines. But I was scared. Yes, even though I said I was very happy that as a tester I got another challenge, I was scared and nervous. Then I asked this question to myself, why am I feeling why am I feeling scared about it? Because it is a challenge. I was happy that it was a challenge. Why am I not feeling motivated about it? Then I realized that it is very simple. When you don't know about something, you feel scared or you feel doubtful about it. So then I decided to get rid of this scare and started to explore by reading more about DevOps and reading something more about continuous integration and these all about these pipelines. It wasn't surprising for me that more I was reading about it, the more I was confused. I was all new to all these concepts, so I had so many questions and doubts. So then I decided to approach that, okay, how do we approach if we are about to test a new feature or when we start working on a completely new product or an application? What do we usually do in these situations as a tester? We try to explore to learn about it, and we ask questions to various team members like developers or BAs or product owner or anyone who is related to that particular application or a product, to know more about it and clarify our assumptions. So instead of researching and reading on my own, I decided to approach it by exploring and questioning. So I started with my first question. Why DevOps? Because I was very curious to know why are we having this in first place. Then I got few reasons from my team, the reason behind why are we trying into DevOps. So the first reason the team gave me was we were moving from monolith to microservices architecture. So we were breaking down the existing monolith product into different modules, and we were rebuilding it into a microservices architecture. So because we were building this product from scratch, the team wanted to merge the code frequently with confidence. So our first step towards DevOps was to start with continuous integration, which was one aspect of the whole DevOps. Okay, this was one reason. So basically, there was a need for speed, for faster and early feedback to know right away if there was an issue. And of course, it was a new buzzword. So even we wanted to look cool by adopting this new shiny thing. So now I know why we are having DevOps. Okay, fine. I got to know the reasons. Now, the next question which I wanted to get an answer for was, what is DevOps? When I was researching about it, I got quite a lot of different definitions about what is DevOps. So this one is from Wikipedia, which I thought it's very simple to understand. So it says DevOps is a term used to refer to a set of practices that emphasizes the collaboration and communication of both software developers and IT professionals while automating the process of software delivery and infrastructure changes. It aims at establishing a culture and environment where building, testing, and releasing software can happen rapidly, frequently, or more reliably. Okay, yeah, I got some understanding about what is DevOps. Of course, the definition is not everything. So next, I wanted to understand what is continuous integration, because that is what our team wanted to start with. Again, the same thing, I came across a lot of definitions. So this is one from Martin Fowler. So he says that continuous integration is a software development practice where members of a team integrate their work frequently. Usually each person integrates at least a daily, and each integration is verified by an automated build to detect integration errors as quickly as possible. Yes, again, this was a definition for me, which kind of I understood, but not much. Then I came across this particular image from Pluralsight. After saying this, it was a little bit clear enough for me. And what I understood by saying this image was that continuous integration is a process where developers integrate their code within the source code repository on a regular basis. It might be once a day, multiple times a day, or based on how team decides. Yes, so after knowing why and what is continuous integration, at this point, I did feel a little confident and motivated to explore more and having more questions about it. So not just that, but I had some more questions, because the more I was trying to understand, the more questions I was raising. So what does this DevOps or continuous integration bring to my world of testing? How would it affect my current testing process? What do I have to change? Or what benefits do these pipelines get? So I had all these questions in my mind. And by having already all these questions in my mind, every day I could hear a lot of new words from my team. Something like pipelines, feature toggles, Docker, and shift left. And I was still trying to understand all these concepts so I can prepare myself for this change. While trying to do so, my team ended up having discussions among themselves. Like my team, like front-end developers, were discussing the solutions, the impacts, and the tools with their own front-end team. And my backend teams started up discussions about the solutions and impacts and the tools which they need with their own backend team. We were all so busy in trying to find out and learn about this new change that we completely forgot to collaborate. I got a bit frustrated, so I just reached out to them and I said, look, we are not collaborating at all. And to my surprise, it didn't take a big shout to make them realize, because I think we were the same team who has gone through the agile transition. So this is what exactly the expression was, because they realized that we were really not collaborating at all. Not just that, I had another challenge, which was I was not being included in most of the meetings, and I was given the reason that it's too technical for me and I don't have to be part of it. The only way I was able to resolve this was by self-inviting myself to those meetings and actively listening in those meetings so I could show them why it is important for me to be there. So for example, there was one of the meeting going on among all my team members with an external consultant. It was a discussion about tools, about tech stack, and about also the pipelines. Being in that meeting gave me a view of what tools are we going to use and why, so that I can go ahead and find out how some of those tools can be useful for me, and or how can I use those tools from testing perspective. And one of the biggest thing was I could also pose some test specific questions from testing perspective and add value to those meetings. I told them, like, I cannot shift left if I'm not being part of such discussions or meetings on early stage. Good thing was that they realized that DevOps is not just about picking up some tools by themselves and what works and what doesn't work for them, but it is a very collaborative effort. So that's where the team decided, we all decided to collaborate more and to come up with solutions, and decided what's best based on, and we wanted to decide based on what's best for all of us rather than just front end and back end and testing. So understanding continuous integration was just like knowing a tip of the iceberg, and there was much more to know and understand to see the change and think of how I can test in continuous integration environment. So next I tried this. Next my approach was, okay, I just went to my team and I said, oh, I just said, pretty please, like, can we please visualize this pipeline by drawing it on a big whiteboard? Because I want to just visualize them and see how they look like. What do these pipelines have actually? So they kindly agreed, and we had whole discussions around these pipelines. We were just sitting in the room and discussing and just drawing everything on the board to visualize and see what goes into this pipeline. So our very first pipeline design looked something like this. So it has different stages on it. It was static code analysis, unit testing, integration testing on it, continuous driven testing, and some API testing. So this was our first initial pipeline, which we as a whole team started to draw. That's where it started to make more sense to me. Like, okay, yeah, I can see what's on that pipeline actually. So after just visualizing that pipeline, I had few more questions which raised into my mind. What are those different stages? I know these are unit testing and different types of tests on those stages, but who defines those stages? Who defines what should go on those pipelines? And will I have any place as a tester to suggest something to go on that pipeline? And my biggest question was, will there be no manual testing at all? And then again, after doing lot of understanding of different concepts. We came back together again to revisit our first pipeline. And again, after a better understanding, we came up with different set of pipeline. Because we all were completely new to it, so we were trying by learning and understanding and coming up something new, which based on what works for us. So we came up with this pre-deploy pipeline with 2 stages on it, and we also had post-deploy pipeline with those 4 stages on it. So then, okay, after seeing this pre-deploy pipeline and post-deploy pipeline, I decided I want to explore more on pre-deploy pipeline to understand different stages of it. So after seeing these pre and post-deploy pipelines, my first question, which I asked my team was like, why do we have 2 different pipelines? Why is it like pre and post? So my team explained me that we called it as a pre-deploy pipeline because it doesn't need to be deployed on any environment to run those tests like unit test and static code analysis. So, okay, I was a bit kind of, okay, I got the point. But then I said, okay, I want to explore a bit more to know about each stage of the pipeline. So the first stage was static code analysis, and the second stage was unit testing. I never came across static code analysis, and I never came across SonarQube as well. So I had to find out from my team, and also I tried to reach out my testing community and various people who already use that tool and see how they use it and what is that they use it for. And then what I understood about static code analysis was that it is a continuous inspection of code quality to perform automatic code review to detect bugs and code smells in the code. So because it was the first stage, again, it's like shift left, right? So because that was the first stage, it is all about detecting bugs on the code and code smells. Because we were on the proof of concept stage, I got a chance to view how this report looks like. Yeah, we said, okay, we will be using SonarQube for static code analysis. Yes, but how does the report look like? So it was good that we had this proof of concept stage, so I can see how exactly the report looks like and what information is on that report. So this was SonarQube tool, which we used for static analysis test. So the more I was exploring, the more I was enjoying uncovering these unknown unknowns. And then next was the second stage on the pre-deploy pipeline was unit testing. So I never got, of course, we used to have unit testing earlier as well, but I never got chance to see what goes behind the unit testing. I never got so involved in it. So this was a good way for me to see the whole code coverage and what are the different tests which goes in unit testing. So I could see the report for how many tests and what was the coverage being covered for the unit testing on the same SonarQube tool. So once unit test was passed, it was ready for further testing. If it fails, then it cannot go to the next stage, and it will go back to the developer for the developer to fix it. Okay, yeah, now I was a bit clarified about pre-deploy pipeline. So what is next? My next step was to explore all the stages which were on the post-deploy pipeline. So on this post-deploy pipeline, we had integration test, contract-driven test, and API test, and some smoke test. Each test were in stages. So that means that if one fails, then it won't go further. If you see like contract-driven test, that was completely new to me because we started to we had to implement contract-driven testing because we were working in microservices. I could see different types of tests running on these pipelines before even being deployed onto the QA or test environment. there are so many different tests going on. So I don't have to wait until everything is being deployed onto OQA or a test environment for me to test. So many tests are running before it comes to me. So this is what I thought. This is what is shift left. This is what exactly is shift left, trying to run as many tests as possible on early stage. So as a team, when we started with knowing very little about these things, we had similar challenges and a goal to understand the overall concept. It is possible that each member of team knows or understand a particular part of the overall concept. By sharing what each one of us know or what we try to explore or research about it, we try to build a picture from everyone's own perspective. Like developers explored their own research and testers and front end and back end. So we all came together with our all thought process. We had to answer why, what, and how of the continuous integration. While creating these, like now you have seen those couple of pipelines. So while creating some of the proof of concepts, we created proof of concepts so that we can get some hands-on experience on these new tools and the new way of developing and testing. We got better understanding, and gave us more confidence in moving forward as a whole team. So just not just that, because we had much more better understanding of what test we should have on our pipeline and what test we should not. So after getting like those pre-deploy and post-deploy pipelines were just the starting experience or the initial understanding what we had. So we were trying to play around with these pipelines unless we figure out what works for us. So at the end, like after moving forward, we ended up in having just one single pipeline with different stages or tests on it, because we had, at this stage, we had better understanding whole as a team. And at this point, I also suggested to add, you can see that there's a mini regression testing stage at the end. I've also suggested them to add this as part of the pipeline initially, which also had some smoke test as part of it. The reason why I said I want to add these tests to these pipelines is because smoke test, as we all know, that smoke test are very fast, and it checks the code behavior to identify if it's a faulty deployment. And it was also to make sure that the build is testable before it is even deployed onto the test environment for further testing. And instead of adding full regression to the pipeline, we went ahead and added just mini regression initially so that we can get the fast feedback, because the more longer test or the more comprehensive test would take more longer time to run. As this was completely new to us, we didn't wanted to add all the tests to the pipeline and make it more slow. Instead, we wanted to take a step-by-step approach and see the impact and make the further decisions of what tests should be added. And we initially started off by adding full regression tests as a nightly build task. We would trigger that build every night, not we would not run it as a couple of times a day, but every day it was part of the nightly build. Every morning I could just review the reports and see what has passed and what has failed. So the difference was that I could add the build number while I'm raising any issue if there was a failure during this regression run. So it got much easier for a developer to find the root cause. It's not to say that it tells you what exactly went wrong or where the issue is, but the developers could easily check the recent code related to that build to see what went wrong. So it is something like, instead of searching a needle in a whole haystack, it's like which part of haystack you need to look to find the needle. So having these tests on the pipeline meant that I could spend more time on exploratory testing. Yes, like initially I had this doubt and question that will we have manual testing at all? So we still had this manual testing aspect into our entire testing strategy, that we had more and more exploratory testing. And these were a few of the tools which we use, like just few of the tools, like I've mentioned, just few of the tools which we use, like Jenkins, and you can see Slack as a chat ops, and Selenium and Cucumber for our UI automation, and React for front end, and SonarQube was for reports, and MongoDB and web services. So while we continued to improve and understand more about continuous integration, we were moving forward and making some more improvements to the pipeline. As I said, this was just the beginning for us. By just understanding and coming up with the first set of pipeline and moving forward, we started to define the long-term goal. We said, yes, now we have something in place. Now we have better understanding, and we will continue working, and we will make changes and improvements as we go and face the challenges as we go. But at the same time, we wanted to not just stop there, but also we wanted to have a long-term goal. So this is what we had. We wanted to add full regression testing and visual tests to our pipeline, not just as a nightly build, but as a whenever we have a deployment, we wanted to run full regression tests. So this was our long-term goal. And then once we achieved that, the next set of goal was we wanted to add performance testing, some of the non-functional testing to our pipeline, and which was we wanted to add performance and security testing. We definitely wanted to have these tests onto our pipeline, and this was our second long-term goal. And also we were looking for some monitoring tools and dashboard tools to be in place, because currently we were just using Slack as a chat ops. Like whenever we used to have a deployment, or if the build pass or build is failed or anything, all the notifications we would get as all those notifications onto Slack. But the long-term goal we had was we wanted to have the dashboard and the monitoring tools, so that we can monitor our production, because we had different microservices. So we definitely wanted to have those monitoring tools and dashboard to see how many builds are going, and how many builds are passing and how many builds are failing, and to have those different metrics. So it was like let's start having these. So this was part of our long-term goal. And finally, once we said, once we were comfortable enough with this continuous integration, and we thought we definitely wanted to approach towards continuous deployment. So this is still a journey for me. It's not something like, okay, I just went through this journey, I learned about continuous integration, we all as a team learned about continuous integration and have had a pipeline and long-term goal, and that's it. No, it was still an ongoing journey, because we definitely knew that we had to face many different challenges as we progress, as we move ahead. And I definitely still had to learn more and explore, and also fit into continuous testing in DevOps. While working and during this whole transition, my role became more of a strategic role rather than just as only a tester and just doing testing. So while being during this whole transition, during this whole journey, I had few takeaways to summarize what I gained from this whole transition. It's the first point I had was like, it's okay to feel scared. This feeling was very real and very challenging feeling for me. The way it's not like I avoided, I ignored that I'm not feeling scared. I realized that I'm scared, and I tried to figure out why I'm scared. And then I overcame this by trying to question myself, why and what is making me feel so scared, so that I can help myself to get away from this fear. And also, I had my team support, which helped me to get this care out. And another thing, another takeaway, key takeaway for me was visualizing those pipelines. It really helped me. It was so valuable in drawing those pipelines as a team, because and making sure everyone understands what tests or stages we have and why we have them. So because it was like a whole team effort, it made it, and everyone had a place to input their own value in it, and we could see what's going on behind every iteration. Because as you could see, it was an iterative process for us. We came up with pipeline, post, pre, and then we came up with a single pipeline, and then we kept adding the test. So if no, everyone is not involved in it, just someone from the higher level, the team comes and they say, okay, this is our pipeline and these are the tests which we are running, and that's it. Then you won't feel so motivated maybe, or you won't feel why are we doing this. So it helped me to visual, sitting with the team and visualizing and seeing what's going behind every stage. It helped me a lot. And it's okay to not know everything. When I started off, I didn't knew anything, and I didn't shy away by saying I don't know anything. Because what if I say, okay, I'll go back and research and come? I can say this, but I can't say that I know everything and I'll go back and research and come. Instead of saying that, I was very open, and I had no shy saying that I don't know anything. So I would like to research and try to reach out people and learn, and also learn from my own team as well. That's where my team had trust in me, that they know what I'm doing, they know what I know, and they know what I don't know as well. So they have some kind of trust in me. Instead of assuming that I know everything, at least they build up some trust in me. And the biggest thing was question and questioning and questioning. You could see during the entire uh, my story, I had so many questions. Yes, as a tester, I think this is our one of our by default nature, that we want to ask number of questions before even, we don't jump into testing straight away. If you get something to test, we ask a lot of questions. It doesn't mean that you don't know anything and you are just asking the questions without knowing everything. No, it is to learn. By asking questions, it helped me to learn, and it also helped me to validate whether what I'm thinking is right or wrong. And it also helped me to clarify my assumptions. And the biggest thing was exploring. I realized that exploring is not just useful in testing a feature or an application. It can be used to explore anything and everything. For example, I used exploring testing, like exploring this technique to explore the architecture, to explore the pipelines, to explore the tools. So while doing this, I raised questions, I got some ideas. It was very, very useful for me to explore throughout this journey. And the biggest thing was trust and collaboration. Yes, even though when we started, we realized we had no collaboration. This is what the challenge is as a team. You need to actively just not listen, but actively see what's going on in your team, and raise if there's anything which you see something is wrong. Like how I thought everyone was busy in like sorting out their own stuff. There's no collaboration. Just one shout out made my whole team realize that we are not collaborating. So it's trust and collaboration is not just needed while transitioning, but also it is must and needed to continue the whole journey to the DevOps as well. So this was my own story and about how I approached this transition. I cannot say that the transition to whole DevOps, but transition into one aspect of DevOps. So these were the challenges which I faced and approach which I took, how to learn about things and how I came up with how I came up with all those different questions, and how mainly I say myself that as a manual tester, I was still part of such an important, I was playing such an important role in this whole entire DevOps. And I was also able to add test from testing perspective. I was not just being told that just we are going to add this test and you have to just run these tests on the pipeline, but it was me who was deciding why we want these tests on the pipeline. So this is all about collaboration and trusting each other. So it might be different people will different people will face different challenges based on how their team setup is or how their team is, but this is just how these are just my challenges, how I faced and how I figured out to resolve them. And these were the few of the resources which helped me when I was transitioning, which like these are just few of them. I just gone through quite a lot, but these are few of them which I thought which were very informative. And when I said I reached out community and testing community and different people, I used to always reach out people on Slack channels like Women in Testing, Ministry of Testing, sometimes like TechWell, and of course Twitter was my best friend to ask any questions in this. So yeah, thank you for listening to my story. I think I finished quite before on time.
Actually, you finished quite on time given the number of questions that we have. And by the way, if questions are assigned of people interested in what you're saying, then people are really, really interested in what you're saying. So we won't have time to go over everything. But first and foremost, on a personal note, congratulations on a couple of things. First of all, great session. But I think most importantly, it's obvious that you've done a great journey, and again, going over a number of milestones, and it's really impressive for someone to look at on the side. And again, just on that side, congratulations. But let's move over to the questions. And again, we have plenty. I will select a number of them. For those that we don't get to, guys, please go over and continue asking on the Slack channel. So Lisa is saying that, sorry, it's moving. Lisa says, I think it takes a lot of courage to elbow your way into meetings, especially if you've been told that it's too technical for you. What do you recommend to testers to build up the courage to do this? And I like that question. It's an important one. How do other testers can actually build their courage to do it?
Yeah, I think this is all about like, for me, it was, I was getting frustrated because I was not getting any information. Because as a tester, I feel like you need to know. It's not just that if you have been given the decisions, it's okay for you to know that decisions, but you need to know what's going behind every decision. Maybe it could be why we have chosen the tool or why we are going to DevOps, everything. Like it could be anything. So I really needed every information because as a tester, you're very curious to know things, right? So this is very, very common that the team sometimes are developers, like they feel like you are not needed into these meetings because it's more technical. Your mind will be blowing up. Like there's no point. You won't get anything. So I think it needs first courage, like the first of courage to say that, see if there is any meeting going on. You don't wait for you to be invited. If you wait, you will keep waiting for it. So just go ahead and see if there's any meeting going on. Once you break that, like it's kind of ice break, like, once you break that and go to the first meeting and meeting, you to what in the end are able kind of discussions are, and show the entire team what value you have got out of being in those meetings. I think that's where it will start to see people will start inviting you, and people will not question you again that, oh, this meeting is not required for you, because they sometimes, I think they forget that even though it's technical, you need to be there to see why this decision has been made. So it's about us to make them realize why we have to be there. So I think this is what I tried, and it was hard for me to break that for the first time, but later on, I think the shout itself was great, huge, that they realized yes, I am needed in those meetings.
And it sounds like you did a pretty good job. Now, a general, by the way, something that someone was asking before, if you can show again the QR code, because people just missed it at the beginning. So if you can
Mhm.
just go over there, and I'll continue asking the other questions. There is someone here who was wondering, how long did it take? Meaning the whole transition. We talking about a couple of months? Are we talking about a year? Meaning just to give an idea.
No, yeah. So we basically initially started off like we took couple of months to just research and learn, and took some training, like training in the sense like like my team developers, they were, because it was microservices as well, quite a lot of new things was going on. So we took complete 2-3 months just to figure out what tools we need, how do we approach it, how like all that all those challenges. So we took up about 2 or 3 months to understand the concepts and learn and research about it, and to have come to an end. And then that's where the real transition started, once we had better understanding. And I think the overall, it depends, because we were a small team and we were working together. Initially we didn't work together, but yeah, we started to work together quite very well. So it took about 8 to 9 months to just get to the stage of like very first pipeline and very first build, which we started with having just few tests on our pipeline.
Cool. Now, last question. And again, guys, sorry that we cannot go over everything, but Parveen, you have quite a lot of questions on the Slack channel. People will be happy to talk about them. Talking about testing
Mm-hmm.
on your DevOps approach,
Yeah.
was it all automated? Can you talk a little bit about the manual testing that you did, and maybe
Yeah.
a little bit about the tools that you have been using for that?
Yeah.
People are interested in that.
Yeah. So yeah, we had like as you can see, like the unit and integration and the contract driven testing and the API testing all were automated. And in terms of testing, like we had UI testing automated, like API and the UI testing were automated, and we used Selenium and Cucumber both together. And rest assured for API testing, these were automated. And I think I just told this during my presentation, that having these things automated, it gave me more time to invest into exploratory testing, because because it was not just because it was microservices, because sometimes you just run the test, but you need to make sure how the workflows, how the user flows are working. And it's not just that every test case or pass or fail. So for us as a team, yes, my team was very good in this. Like they were very keen and interested to see how all these microservices flow works together. And this could be only possible by doing more and more exploratory testing. So um, we regression was like the most of the regression test was automated. And the any of the test cases which we could not automate, again, which we all know that that was part of the manual testing. But main focus as a manual testing was exploratory, I can say that.
Sounds good. So, Praveen, first of all, again, thanks a lot for the session. Uh, Excellent job on the presentation, obviously, but again, most of the congrats is for the great journey that you've done. And again, thank you for sharing it with us. I think that it was very, we actually learned quite a lot from it. Sorry for lack of words, but we actually learned quite a lot of it. And thanks a lot. And again, good luck. I'm going to be more than happy to hear how it actually goes in the next years or so. So thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
sure. Thank you so much for having me in. Thank you so much for listening to me. Yeah.